but you have 20 soldiers that are going out and beating up your thyroid gland on a daily basis. They're making you tired. They're making you gain weight. They're making your hair fall out. They're causing inflammation in your body, in your joints. Your muscles are stiff. Oh, but we're going to wait until you have 35 soldiers to then diagnose you and actually do something about it.
Hello and welcome to the Fitness Doctor Coaching Show. Today we have my good friend, Dr. Amie Hornaman with us. And I have to admit, no matter who watches this show, I'm personally so happy to have Dr. Amie on this show because what we're going to be talking about today, hormones, hormone optimization, and also specifically thyroid. Dr. Amie Hornaman, she's known as the Thyroid Fixer. She's a leading doctor and clinical nutritionist who specializes in thyroid and hormone optimization. As a clinician, speaker, and host of the Thyroid Fixer podcast, which is one of the leading podcasts in the health space, she is dedicated to helping people take control of their health by optimizing thyroid function and balancing hormones. Through her programs, supplements, and expert guidance, she empowers individuals to finally break free from weight struggles, fatigue, and frustrating symptoms. Her approach combines advanced lab testing, personalized treatment protocols, and a no-nonsense strategy to deliver real, lasting results. Let me share this with you. When you think about everything that has to do with your body functionality, your muscle, your strength, your energy, your muscle mass, your bone density, your fat loss, how you feel, your energy, your emotions, there's really nothing that I could think of that's more important than your hormones and your thyroid. Those are chemical messengers in your body that are going to pretty much every cell in your body and saying, do this, do that, upgrade muscle, decrease body fat, increase metabolism. So when these things are off, which are so common for us, especially as we chronologically age, whether man or woman, hormones, and especially thyroid, play such a huge part in how you function. Thyroid hormones specifically are regulating essential body functions. For example, your metabolism. They control how your body burns calories, affecting weight gain or loss. Even your heart rate, heartbeat, and temperature. They influence heart rate and body temperature regulation. Energy and growth. They support energy production, muscle strength, growth, digestion. They affect the speed of food movement through the digestive tract and cell renewal. They literally regulate how quickly your body replaces dying cells. As you start to get senescent cells, these are cells that are dying in your body but don't quite make it out. Well, the turnover of those old cells and replacement of new lively cells are also regulated by the things that we're going to be talking today. So please help me welcome my good friend, Dr. Amie.
Oh my gosh, Robbie, I couldn't have said that better myself. Like you covered it all. And I'm just listening to you explain thyroid and hormones. I'm going, yep, that one too, and that. But it is so true. It is so true. So I'm really excited to be here with you because I don't know how much you've covered this on the show yet, but wow, I mean, this applies to every single audience member you have listening right now.
Amie, we have not yet gone deep on hormones in any of our shows. So I'm actually
Fun.
really excited, as I'm sure all of our guests are super excited as well. So what do you think? Like, what do you think the missing pieces, and why thyroid and hormone optimization is like probably the most overlooked yet critical factor for long-term health?
Yeah, it really is. Now, why it's overlooked, I don't know. I would be a multi-billionaire if I could answer that question because when I look at medical schools and what's taught, there is not enough focus on thyroid and hormones. Now, I mean, we could go down so many different rabbit holes of big pharma and that influence, but the bottom line is this. For the listener, your thyroid is the master gland. So it controls, just like Robbie said in the beginning, which is beautiful, it controls every single aspect of your body. So from cell turnover to energy to weight management, your metabolism, your brain function, your gut motility, your joints, your mobility, your ability to build muscle, all of that is controlled by the thyroid. Now, when we use the term hormones, just for anyone listening, yes, the thyroid gland does produce hormones. There are many different hormones in the body. And Robbie, like you said, they're chemical messengers. They send signals to the body to do something, whether it's move this muscle or kill off some zombie senescent cells, like you mentioned. There's a boatload of different hormones, and thyroid is a hormone as well. But when we say the term hormones, most people are thinking about their sex hormones. So estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. Those are important as well. And the whole laundry list of things that you mentioned in the beginning, and we can add to it heart health, heart disease, your cardiac function, your risk of cancer, your risk of Alzheimer's, your risk of osteoporosis, osteopenia, sarcopenia, which I know you talk about a ton. All of that is tied to the sex hormones as well. So when we talk thyroid and hormones, we say both of those because they play together. The thyroid regulates our sex hormones. And at the same time, our sex hormones decline as we age, just like our thyroid does. And we can get into that more. Both the thyroid and hormones decline as we age. And with that decline comes increased symptoms and increased disease states that are tied back to that decline. So we tend to lump it all together in one conversation, and then we separate it out and can get really specific with just thyroid disease, hypothyroidism, or just hormonal decline.
What do you think is the biggest thing that really shows up for people in their blood work that most of the doctors are missing? And like, what might be people be feeling in their body and in their life as a result of these things being off? And then what are the things that should be looked for in blood work that are very likely being missed by most of their doctors?
Oh, so good. So good. Okay, let's start with thyroid. So, first of all, when we're looking at the thyroid, like I said, it's the master gland. So, we have to think symptoms tied to the entire body. And you mentioned a lot of them. So, weight gain, inability to lose weight no matter what you do, no matter how hard you're trying, water retention, low energy. When we say hypothyroidism, think hypo, low, and slow. Hypo, low, and slow. So, that means your brain function is down. Depression, brain fog, fuzzy thinking, memory loss, energy down, libido down, cell turnover down, metabolism down, gut motility. Do you go to the bathroom every day? Down. So these are the people that will hear, okay, no, I can't lose weight no matter what I do. I'm tired all day long. I live on coffee. I have to take a nap at 2 p.m. Oh, hair loss too. My hair is falling out. I think I'm getting early Alzheimer's. I'm forgetting everything. I can't focus. And I only go to the bathroom once every 3 to 5 days. So all of those symptoms, I always say they are gifts by your body. They are signs by your body. They are gifts given to you by your body. And you say, well, that doesn't sound like a really good gift, right? So it's a gift in that it's telling you you need to look deeper. This is where we get into testing. So let's say you have all those symptoms and you go to your doctor and you say, doc, I heard this thyroid expert on a show I listened to, and I would really like a full thyroid panel. Well, after you listen to the show, you're going to be more educated and you're going to know what to ask for. But if you just went in and asked for that, your doctor is going to test something called TSH, or thyroid stimulating hormone. And this hormone is a brain hormone. It's not even a thyroid hormone. So TSH is released by your pituitary gland to stimulate your thyroid to produce more thyroid hormone. It's basically like when you're yelling at your kid for not picking up his toys and your voice tends to get louder as Johnny doesn't listen. So that's your brain yelling at your thyroid, hey, thyroid gland, you're not doing your job. Come on, man, you got to start producing some thyroid hormone. So as TSH goes up, and this is one of the only lab markers you will ever see where high means low. As TSH increases, that's your brain screaming at your thyroid gland to produce more thyroid hormone. However, TSH is not the be all end all. And this is what happens when you go to your conventional medicine doctor, you go in for your PCP, your 5 to 7 minute visit, and you say, hey, doc, I'm experiencing all these symptoms. Can we test it? They test TSH. It comes back within normal limits. Now, I'm talking about that standard lab value range that you see on your labs. To the right of your labs, you'll see that standard lab value range. And if you are outside of the range, that's when it'll be red. You'll get a little H next to it. You'll get a little L next to it. But that doesn't tell the full picture. So your TSH could come in within that normal range. And your doctor looks, there's nothing red, there's nothing flagged. You're fine. Move on. Now, if TSH is above that cutoff and it's a little bit red and you got the little H next to it, it's being flagged high, At that point in time, your doctor will stop and say, Janet, I'm sorry, but you do have hypothyroidism. Your TSH is elevated. Now we're just going to give you this pill and send you on your way. And this is the only pill that you need. That's all you need. It'll take care of it. You'll be fine. And they never look at the rest of the thyroid panel. They're not checking the other numbers that really tell us that full picture. And worse off, if you come in within the normal range, they just blow you off. So this is where, and maybe your listeners will resonate with this. So raise your virtual hand if this speaks to you. They will tell you, you're normal. Everything is fine. Your labs look good. You're normal. Oh, it's just all in your head. You know what, honey? Just eat less and exercise more. Just, yeah. You know what? You're just getting older. This is just something you're going to have to get used to. This is just what happens to the body. And you're standing there going, well, wait, no, I don't want to live the rest of my life. I don't care how old you are. I don't care if you're in your 30s or in your 70s. You should not throw in the towel or be told to throw in the towel when you're experiencing these symptoms. Because like I said, those symptoms are a gift by your body. Let's dig deeper and let's actually figure out what's going on. I know that was a lot all at once. That's a lot all at once.
So let's try to break this down so that our audience can gain the greatest amount of value. Like, what are some of the most important numbers, and how do they know when they're optimal? How do they know when they're actually out of range? Because, a lot of blood work and blood panels, as you're speaking to, first of all, aren't based on an optimal population. They're based on having a standardized population, and a lot of that population has different levels of disease states, metabolic syndromes, all kinds of issues. So when you look at your numbers, you're getting actually factored in with that. And it's not, I mean, most of our audience, they don't want to just be like on this, like, you're okay for the average, average to dysfunctional individual. They want to be actually optimal. So what are those numbers that should be optimal? And how, we'll talk about this next, but how are we going to get those optimal numbers will be coming up. Let's look at what numbers should be optimal first.
Oh, you said that so well. Perfect. Okay. Just like you said, there's normal and then there's optimal. And I always joke that normal is a setting on the dryer. So we don't want you just normal. And just like you said, Robbie, those standard lab value ranges were taken from sick people. So in functional medicine, we look at your audience base. We look at the badasses. We look at those people that are still working out. They want to look their best, feel their best, perform their best every single day, stay active, have their minds, stay fit, keep their muscle, the whole thing. That is the optimal range. So that's where functional medicine comes up with an optimal range. So a great analogy that I heard, I have to give Mark Hyman credit for this. He used this analogy of that standard lab value range being like the side of a barn. And if I gave you a ball, I said, stand back there and hit the side of the barn, you're going to hit it. But what if I put a little bullseye on the barn? And I said, all right, now try to hit that little target. It gets a little bit harder because now you don't have this big range to fall into. Now it's much more narrow. But that narrow functional medicine optimal range is where we know that you will feel your best. So yes, the standard, you cannot go by the standard lab value range. So when we're talking about optimal ranges, and I do have this list on my website as a free download, that way you can have it like on the palm of your hand and reference it. We also have a lab quiz that you can take that gives you feedback on every single lab marker. And that's at dramie.com/labs. That's a great way to know, okay, am I optimal or am I just normal? But a quick rundown. TSH, the thyroid stimulating hormone we just talked about, we want that below a 2. Free T4, which is the inactive thyroid hormone, but in the free form, FREE, free T4, that should really be right around a 1. We actually don't want it too high. And I don't hang my hat on T4. The two most important tests that you absolutely need to get on your thyroid panel every single time: free T3, that is your active thyroid hormone. That's what's telling us how much thyroid hormone that can actually attach to your cell and turn that cell on, meaning give you a metabolism, give you energy, grow your hair, light up your brain. How much of that active thyroid hormone is in your body? We want to look at that and we want to compare that number with the optimal lab value range that we want you at. So you could come in with a free T3 of a 2.5, a 2.8, a 3. You'll be told you are normal. Everything is fine. Your doctor will dismiss you even if they do that test. That free T3 we want in the upper quadrant of the range, upper quadrant. Reverse T3 is the next most important test. Every single time you get tested for your thyroid, you absolutely must make sure that reverse T3 is on there. Reverse T3 tells us how well you're converting your inactive thyroid hormone to your active thyroid hormone. Let me just explain that a little bit more so you understand it. Your thyroid, remember we said in the beginning, your thyroid makes hormones. Hormones are messengers. Your thyroid makes two hormones that we test for on labs. That actually makes a total of four, but the two most important ones, T4, T3. T4 is inactive. It has to morph and become and basically convert and transform into becoming T3 in order for it to have any effect on your body whatsoever. So we can give you T4 medication. Your thyroid can pump out T4 hormone, and it doesn't matter at all if that T4 hormone isn't converting properly to T3. Doesn't matter. I mean, I could overdose you on T4 hormone and it's not going to do a damn thing if it doesn't convert. This is why we check reverse T3. Reverse T3 tells us how well are you converting that inactive thyroid hormone to active. Reverse T3 we want below a 12. And again, side note, that lab value range goes all the way up to 24. So it's very easy for you to say, well, my doctor tested it and said it was normal. We want it below a 12. And then we also want to throw in those two markers for antibodies because I want to know if you have Hashimoto's. I want to know if you have an autoimmune condition where your body thinks that your thyroid gland is a bad guy and thinks it's an invader and likes to go out and attack it. I want to know that. So I want to test TPO or thyroid peroxidase and TGA, thyroglobulin antibodies. And both of those, I want at 0. 0. Now, quick analogy here, just for people to understand. If you think of those antibodies as soldiers, and this is something, again, you will hear this from your doctor. You got tested, you look at your TPO, the lab value range is less than 34, but you came in at 20. Now let's break this down. This is why I say we want it at 0. Those 20 TPO antibodies, not over 34. So you're not getting flagged high. Remember, that's not turning red. You're not getting a little H next to it. So your doctor tells you, no, you're fine. You don't have Hashimoto's. But you have 20 soldiers that are going out and beating up your thyroid gland on a daily basis. They're making you tired. They're making you gain weight. They're making your hair fall out. They're causing inflammation in your body, in your joints. Your muscles are stiff. Oh, but we're going to wait until you have 35 soldiers to then diagnose you and actually do something about it. Now, when I say that, does that make any sense whatsoever? No. That is why we want your antibodies at 0.
So what I heard you just say is that the way that I would look at this is, so like T4 is kind of like having M&Ms. So let's take, not the best example because it's candy and yeah.
It's all right. I'm rolling with it. I like it. Okay.
So we have M&Ms. Let's imagine we have all these brown M&Ms, right? And we need M&Ms, and those are the T4. So these are like unedible M&Ms. And the ones that we can turn green, those are like the go M&Ms, right? Green for go. And those are actually the T3. So T4 is like our supply raw material source, and T3 is the active source of thyroid hormone, being T3. So I understood you say that. I also understood you said we want reverse T3. First of all, we want to check that, and we want that to be under a 12. And then I also heard you say Hashimoto's, which I would love for you to explain to our audience, just in case anyone's not familiar with that and what that means. But before we get there, also Hashimoto's, which I'm sure you're going to explain, is something kind of like a fatigue syndrome that has to do with your thyroid. I'll let you explain that. But you might not fully have Hashimoto's, and I would love to know what's the difference between like Hashimoto's and Epstein's Barr, and so is there something different between those two? And what I heard you say is you could have TPO and TGA, which are markers for having these conditions, elevated, putting you in not a good range, but yet you won't yet be clinically diagnosed with Hashimoto's because those numbers aren't high enough.
Yes. Yes. You nailed it. Great analogies. I like the M&Ms. I like it. So with Hashimoto's, this is an autoimmune condition, and autoimmunity is on the rise right now. Because with any autoimmune condition, I'm going to give you the overall autoimmune analogy. And this can be if you have rheumatoid arthritis, Crohn's disease, celiac, type 1 diabetes, MS, lupus, psoriasis, Hashimoto's, Graves' disease. These are the big fibromyalgia autoimmune conditions. Now, when we're talking about autoimmune, there's a great analogy of a three-legged stool. And I love using analogies too, because I think it makes it so easy to understand. A three-legged stool. So on the one leg, you have that genetic predisposition. Somewhere in your family, somebody has an autoimmune condition. It doesn't have to be Hashimoto's. It can be any autoimmunity, genetic predisposition. Then the other leg, we have leaky gut. Now, everybody has leaky gut these days. Honestly, I mean, come on. We're exposed to so many toxins and chemicals in our environment, even when we try to control it, which you and I do. I mean, we're still only about at 80%, right? We're still getting exposed to about 20% of just things that we cannot control. And that creates leaky gut. It destroys our gut barrier. So yes, doing gut healing protocols and all that, very helpful, but not the be all end all. We're constantly exposed. Then that third leg of the stool is a trigger, a stressor. So it could be Epstein-Barr virus that you got back in college because you had mono, and now you have this dormant EBV virus, or really any kind of viral load. Tick-borne illnesses. It could be as simple, ladies, as pregnancy or perimenopause and menopause. A hormonal cascade, a hormonal chaos situation that's created in your body is that third leg that tends to flip the switch to the on position. So this is where I have actually coined the term thyropause. And my definition of thyropause is when a woman's thyroid gland craps the bed after the age of 40 due to fluctuating hormones. Because what happens with those fluctuating hormones in perimenopause and menopause triggers autoimmune to express itself, basically turns that light switch from the off position to the on position. And this is where we will start to see those antibodies climb, and we'll start to see symptoms appear. So that's basically what Hashimoto's is. Hashimoto's autoimmune thyroiditis accounts for 95% of all hypothyroid, low and slow thyroid cases. It's very, very rare that we have a person with a thyroid problem that was caused from external sources. And those external sources, chemo, radiation, birth control pill use. So birth control used for over 10 years increases your risk of hypothyroidism by 243%. Certain medications, but again, that only really accounts for about 5% of the hypothyroid cases out there. 95% are autoimmune.
Wow. So the hormones being offered really setting a whole cascade of events that literally sets your entire immune system pretty much into an autoimmune response where your immune system starts attacking itself and therefore starts creating additional inflammation. And that's where we're going to get the additional sore joints, lack of muscle development, especially as compared to 20, 30 years ago, could actually affect bone density. It can affect energy, energy to want to exercise, all of these things because your hormones are off from the alignment of what they should be versus optimal.
Yes, 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 all day long. And when you're saying that, I just want the audience to realize too, we're focused here on thyroid, but you can easily replace any sentence that you just said, Robbie, with estrogen, progesterone, or testosterone too. So we have to bring the sex hormones into conversation because those start getting affected as well. And listen, the bottom line is none of us are aging in reverse. I wish we could age like Benjamin Button, but we can't. So we're all going to experience hormonal decline. Now, this is where replacing those hormones come in beautifully, but we're all going to experience that hormonal decline, even if we put the hormones back in. So with that fluctuation, that's where we end up seeing that presentation of additional symptoms and the presentation of Hashimoto's.
Very interesting. So what would you recommend? Like, what's the most profound things that people can do to optimize their hormones, all the way from, going and seeing a doctor or working with you to see certain hormones, and then like, you shared some of what we're looking at, but how, like, one thing is to look at a lab report. Okay, great. Let's say you understand everything you're reading, and
Yeah.
now what?
Well, so you want to start with thorough labs, 100%. I mean, that you want to test, not guess. But then you want to pair that lab panel up with your symptoms and hopefully be at least learning from or talking to someone that knows what they're doing with the thyroid and with hormones when they're looking at it. So we want to look at that full lab panel, pair it up with all of those symptoms that you have, and that way we can bring it together and say, all right, well, it makes sense why you just gained 10 pounds in the last 3 months and why you're so tired and why you're losing your hair and why your joints hurt. It makes sense. No, you're not crazy. No, you're not just getting older. We know that we can avoid these things as we age. We can have absolute beautiful longevity and feel phenomenal into our 70s, 80s, 90s, however long we're going to live. We pair those symptoms up with your lab so that then we can get that full picture and we can say, here's what we need to do. And it might be as simple as supporting it with certain nutrients that are vital to the thyroid gland: iodine, magnesium, selenium, vitamin D, the B vitamins. Those are fantastic for the thyroid gland itself. Maybe it just needs a little bit of support. Maybe you've already been diagnosed with a thyroid condition and you're listening to this and you're going, well, that's great, Dr. Amie and Robbie. But I'm on thyroid medication and I feel like garbage and I have all of those symptoms. Okay, that's okay. You're probably not on the right medication. You might be on too much T4 that is pushing your reverse T3. Remember that anti-thyroid hormone, that conversion hormone might be pushing that up. It might mean that you need a change of thyroid medication. It might mean that you need some bioidentical hormones too. We have to look at you as a unique individual. And just because you're diagnosed and treated by the conventional system does not mean you are getting optimized. You're just getting the standard of care, right? Test TSH. If TSH is above a 4.5, then we give T4 only medication. And for all the listeners out there that you're on thyroid medication, I want you to listen. If you're on thyroid medication and you are on T4 only, this is Synthroid, levothyroxine, Tirosint. T4 only doesn't work. It doesn't work. So there's a stat I'm going to give you. This is not my stat. This is actually from the Academy for Anti-Aging Medicine, but I agree with it wholeheartedly. And I'll put a little asterisk with it too. 2% of the population do well on T4 only. 98% need T4 and T3. Of that 2% of the population that do well on T4 only, I'm using air quotes there for the listeners, I ask, well, what does do well on mean? That's kind of relative because I was sitting next to a woman on a plane one time who was on T4 only, and she told me that she's great. Like she's doing really well. She didn't even say she feels great. She says, yeah, I'm doing well on it. She was about 50 pounds overweight. Her face was inflamed. You could see the water retention. Her hair was so thin, it was see-through. I could see her scalp, but she doesn't know any better. She just is believing what her doctor told her and that this is all you need. Just take this medication. You'll be fine. And she's literally buying into the hype that she's probably just getting older and she needs to suck it up and deal with it. So I look at her and I go, well, this is part of the 98% that needs T4 and T3. She's not doing well, even though she reports that. So it could just be that you are on the wrong thyroid medication, the wrong thyroid treatment for you, and that needs to be changed up. So it's really about individualization and personalization when it comes to treating thyroid hormones.
And thyroid hormone being as incredibly important as it could be. And you can't say like, oh, this hormone's the most important. You can't really, because the moment you say that, you're like negating the powerful effect of all the other ones. But I'm pretty sure you would think that thyroid hormone's definitely on near the top of the list. What are some other hormones that are incredibly important for our audience to have optimized?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have to think of the sex hormones. Like I said, those are declining. We're not aging like Benjamin Button. I wish we could. But progesterone, so ladies, your progesterone starts to decline in your 30s. Progesterone is critically responsible for sleep, for mood regulation, for water retention. Like it's a diuretic. So if you're retaining water, it could be low in progesterone. Anxiety and depression. A lot of women get prescribed an antidepressant, and what they need is thyroid hormone and a little bit of progesterone because that improves mood way better than antidepressants. Osteoporosis, T4 to T3 conversion, insulin resistance. So any of my insulin resistant type 2 diabetics out there, Progesterone is beautiful for that. Progesterone regulates the heart rate. Like I said, I mentioned anxiety and stress, supports the adrenals. That starts to decline in our 30s. Heavy cycles or irregular cycles, PMDD, PMS, ladies, progesterone. And I'm not even in this list that I'm giving you, just take note that I'm not even scratching the surface of all of the benefits. Oh, progesterone is also anti-prolific, meaning it stops cancer cells from proliferating, from growing. So it is a beautiful anti-cancer hormone as well. Estrogen, that is our brain, a 67% reduction in Alzheimer's, bone remodeling, reduction in osteoporosis, osteopenia. Your hair is reliant on estrogen. Your, oh gosh, so many different things: vaginal dryness, vaginal lubrication, pain during intercourse, vaginal atrophy, hot flashes, mood swings, widening of the midsection, weight gain. All of that is tied back to declining estrogen levels, which can happen anytime in a woman's 40s, 50s is usually when we see it. That perimenopausal, menopausal state. Testosterone, that can decline in a woman's 30s, 40s, or 50s. So we have to test, not guess. And we want to look at, again, optimal ranges for all of these hormones, ladies. But testosterone is our get stuff done hormone: motivation, strength, drive, prevention of sarcopenia, keeping that lean muscle tissue, body composition, weight loss, memory, focus, heart, cardiovascular function, all dependent on testosterone. So we have to bring in the sex hormones as well when we're talking about overall longevity as we age. We have to look at thyroid and hormones. We have to look at thyroid and hormones. If we don't, we are missing a critical component. And I don't care how many peptides you do, how many different, like, whatever programs, gut healing programs, adrenals, detoxes, it doesn't matter. You are not going to hit that peak level of optimization, which I joke, I want you in optimization land with me. What does that mean? What does that mean in layman's terms, to be optimized? It means you're not gaining weight looking sideways at a brownie. It means you don't need more than 1 or 2 cups of coffee in the morning. And that's just for pleasure. That's just because you like it. That's not because you need it. And you certainly don't need that and a bunch of energy drinks to get through your day. You're not looking longingly at the couch at 2 p.m., begging for time for a nap. You're not counting the hairs that come out of your head. You actually poop every day. That is detoxing. That's actually needed. You want that, and maybe even multiple times a day. There's no acid reflux. You're not living on PPIs. You're not taking the Sally Field medication for your bones because you have really good, strong bones. You're getting in great workouts. You're motivated. Your brain is functioning. You're not on an antidepressant because of mood swings or depression or anxiety. You don't have to take a sleeping pill at night because you can't get to sleep. Optimization land is a beautiful place to be. And if it sounds too good to be true, then you need your thyroid and hormones tested because you've been living in a very, very non-optimized state that has become your new normal, and you don't even know how it could be. You don't even know how it could be.
So I'm thinking, I would love to hear a specific, give us some examples of things that very likely our audience is facing, and what kind of turnarounds and results have you seen? And then I have a special question for our audience here coming up. But first, let's answer that first one. What have you seen in terms of transformations? I'm sure this is going to be very interesting.
Oh, goodness. Oh, Robbie, we've seen it all. So I'll give you a couple of examples. So one is a gentleman, actually. Now, it's strange that I'm leading off with a story of a man, because when we talk about hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's, it affects women more than men. But this particular case was so interesting that I actually published a case study on him. He came to me a type 2 diabetic. Now I'm going to tie in the importance of thyroid and hormones with blood sugar regulation here. He came to me an insulin dependent type 2 diabetic, about 150 pounds overweight. The hospital had him on metformin and insulin. He said, I do not accept this. I'm not accepting it. We looked at his thyroid function. It was in the toilet. And his testosterone, for being a young guy, like 30s, 40s, his testosterone was really low. So we knew that, yeah, okay, we needed, some dietary cleanup here, but that wasn't enough to drive this man to a 13.9 A1C and be in full-blown insulin-dependent diabetes. We had to do something. So we started optimizing his thyroid, getting his testosterone back online. In 6 weeks, now this is way faster than I even anticipated. 6 weeks, he was off the insulin. In 6 months, he reversed his diabetes. That is how, oh, and lost like 100 pounds, by the way. So that is how powerful thyroid and hormones are to the body. And I love that story because it really drives home the point. Another really, really good story I have was a woman. Now, this is probably a little bit outside of your audience. So this was a woman in her mid 30s, late 30s, trying to get pregnant, multiple miscarriages, thought she was infertile, depressed, overweight. It was affecting her marriage. It was affecting her business. She couldn't even think. She was working for somebody, damn near lost her job. She had all these goals and dreams for her life, but they just were not happening. Like they were going down the toilet really, really fast. She was diagnosed with hypothyroidism, but her doctor had her on T4 only. We already talked about that. 2% do well on T4 only. She didn't fall in that 2%. Her reverse T3 was really elevated, basically putting her body in survival mode. So we put her on the right thyroid hormone treatment, lowered her reverse T3. We found that she was very low in progestation. That was playing a role in her fertility, as was thyroid, because low thyroid function is the number one cause of infertility and miscarriage. So we optimized her on both of those areas. She had 2 beautiful babies. She lost a total, oh gosh, I forget her total. She keeps sending me progress pics. So I think we're up to like 75 or 80 pounds now that she's lost. I don't even know. She ran a 5K. Oh no, she ran a full marathon. She ran a 5K first, then a full marathon. She started her own business. Her marriage is thriving. So the life transformation, and I mean, I could give you story after story after story going like through the years, the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. We have 70 and 80-year-old women in the program just optimize because they know they want to live the rest of their life like a rock star. They don't accept old, and I don't think they should. Many years to live, and you should feel good living out the rest of your life. You should not have to throw in the towel like conventional medicine wants us to do just because you turn 50. Like, okay, that's it. It's midlife. It's over. Just go ahead, get fat, lose your hair, don't have sex anymore, and just sit there and watch Jeopardy. I mean, no, that's not acceptable. That is not acceptable. I know your listeners, and I know they want to live their best life. And if anybody is out there struggling with any of the pain points that we talked about, the symptoms that we talked about today, I'm going to urge you to check thyroid and hormones and get those optimized.
So speaking of that, I would love to. So this has been a great introduction to really understanding this subject. And Dr. Amie and I are doing a special workshop that we dive even deeper. Amie, we're going to be looking at actual blood panels, looking at specifics, because I'm sure after hearing what you heard from Dr. Amie today, you would love to be able to actually dive deep and go into that. So we have a free invite for you to attend a workshop, for you to get even deeper on everything that we talked about. If you have any of those challenges or you'd like to gain any of the benefits that we mentioned, Amie, can you break down exactly what we'll be doing in this workshop?
Oh yeah, this is going to be fun. So just like Robbie said, we are going to dive much, much deeper, looking at all of the culprits and factors of hypothyroidism, the different tests. We're going to go deeper into that. We're going to go deep into those symptoms and show you how they're tied. We're going to get into the thyroid treatment and different things that you might be doing right now or that you might want to look at doing as you start to recognize, hey, this is me. I need to do something about this. So whether you are undiagnosed and you're just hearing all of these symptoms going, oh my God, I checked the box for like 5 of those things that they just talked about, or you are diagnosed and you're listening to this going, yeah, I'm on medication. And it doesn't have to be T4. It could be any thyroid medication. You're on medication, but you don't feel like it's working. You still have all of those symptoms. You want to come to this workshop because we're going deep. And then we open it up for a Q&A. So we're going to do a Q&A afterwards. So any of the questions you might have right now, bring those to the workshop because I will stay on with you and answer those questions until the last one is asked. So any question that you have from listening to this, come. You have to be there live in order to actually ask your question, but come to the workshop that Robbie and I are doing because this is what I want to give to his community. I know that this is a problem. It's a silent epidemic. It needs to be talked about. People need to be educated because if this is a barrier to you feeling optimized, then let's take down that barrier. It's that simple. It's that simple. We can remove that barrier and literally get you feeling the best you ever have in years, maybe even better than what you felt in your 20s and 30s. So we absolutely want to do that for you.
Amie, I love what you do so much. Hormones and thyroid, all the entire endocrine system is so incredibly important that I'm going to make sure outside of this meeting, actually, you and I connect. I have a couple phenomenal naturopathic doctors, as many of our audience members have. But even though I have phenomenal functional medicine, naturopathic doctors, you can't optimize too much, right? There's
Right.
things that are just so critical in what we're talking about that I'm actually going to be connecting with you personally and looking at my own blood work to make sure that I'm optimal. And I would recommend you as audience member or potentially your VIP connecting with us today. If so, so much love for you, especially. And don't put off optimizing your longevity. Like you should absolutely attend the workshop with Dr. Amie and get into even greater details because these things will optimize every bite of food that you eat, where it's going, what kind of tissue it's going to, whether it has an inflammatory, anti-inflammatory effect, the way that your exercise benefits you. It's everything. This is like drastically important stuff. I mean, this is like the right fuel in your car. Like the thing that if you don't have fuel in your car's not going to run. If you don't have right hormones in your body's not going to run. So super, super appreciate you being with me here today, Dr. Amie. Anything else? Oh, really important audience. A couple things. One is where can you sign up for this? Of course, when you
There you
receive
go.
this webinar from us, you're going to have all the links, but here you go. Fix Your Thyroid, spelled all out exactly as it sounds, fixyourthyroid.com/fitness doctor. Again, fixyourthyroid.com/fitness doctor. Go there and you can register yourself in for the webinar. Plus, Dr. Amie also shared with us. Can you say that one more time? There's Dr. Amie Lab. She provided during
Cool.
her webinar
Yeah.
today a special assistance tool. Can you share that
Yeah.
again?
Absolutely. So it's DRAMIE.com/labs, LABS. And that is going to take you, it's an interactive platform that we built because we have so many questions about labs. And I get these questions every day. We see them on Facebook and our Facebook group. What does this mean? What does that mean? Well, my free T3 came back at a 3. What does that mean? So we actually walk you through each of your lab values. And if you don't have one, you can just skip that question. But it's an interactive tool that's going to take you through and tell you exactly what each one of those lab value means.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So make sure you register for the workshop or check out Dr. Amie/labs, and we'll see you on our next connection together. Lots of love.